This is Vaishali Siddhappa and welcome to my channel Complemental Economics, and today's topic, deficit reduction. The question comes like, discuss the issue of deficit reduction. From last two videos continuously I'm talking about fiscal deficit and deficit topic. So deficit means a shortage of income, shortage of money for the country. So expenditure leads to revenue. That situation is called as deficit. So if you want to understand what is deficit is all about, please watch my previous videos about deficit. Right now we're going to talk about how we can reduce the government deficit. The government deficit can be reduced by two ways. The first in it, we can increase the taxes. The second way, we can reduce the expenditure. See, from the taxes we'll get the receipts, income to the country. From reducing the expenditure is going to reduce because of that. So definitely the receipts are going to lead. In this way, always receipts should be greater than the expenditure. To prove that, what we have to do is the two methodology what we can do to reduce the deficit. One, we can increase the taxation. The second one is we can reduce the expenditure. In India, the government has been trying to increase the tax revenue with a great reliance on direct taxes. So what we have to do is we are concentrating more on the direct taxes. The direct tax, in tax you have two types, direct tax and indirect tax. The direct tax means the tax which is imposed on particular one person, that's called as a direct taxes for his wealth, for his property, for his income. So we're going to impose the tax, that's called as a direct tax. The direct tax we are thinking to increase. So we can increase the direct tax, but it is not possible for us to increase the indirect taxes. I'll tell you why imposing indirect taxes is not possible, because indirect taxes has also been attempt to raise receipts. So the impact, first of all, it is very regressive in nature. As I've written here, it is very regressive because it impacts all the sections of people, all the group of people equally. So but direct taxes on particular base, if the higher income people are there, we can impose more taxes. By imposing the more taxes, we can collect more income to the country. But when it comes to indirect taxes, each and everybody, any class of people can buy those kind of goods and services. So equally the tax will be imposed on every class of people. So we don't think indirect tax is the best option. So in this case, we're going to adopt direct taxes changing instead of changing the indirect taxes. So one more thing what we can do is, there is also been an attempt to raise receipts through the sale of shares of PSUs. So one more way, direct tax is one of the way to increase these revenue sources for the government. And the second way what we can do is selling the shares of the PSUs. What is PSU here? Public sector undertakings, public sector units, public sector undertakings. To raise the receipts, what we can do is, whatever this sector PSUs we have, we can do the disinvestment. We can sell the shares of PSUs, that's called as a disinvestment. We can do that especially when PSU is not working, it is running under the loss. If it is profitable, I think it is already a receipt to the government as an income. So but when we are running any PSUs which is in the form of loss, that is better always selling the shares of the PSUs. That's called as a disinvestment. Other than that, the major thrust has been towards a reduction in a government expenditure. Better that raising the receipt, that is also one of the tasks. At the same time, what we can do is we can reduce the government expenditure. So increasing the tax, in that the all three comes. On the other side, reducing the expenditure, that's the one of the major thing we can reduce the expenditure of the economy. This could be achieved through making government activities more efficient. The government sector, first of all, it is not that efficient. So if we come with a better planning, better programs and better administration activities, so always chances are there that we can reduce the expenditure. Expenditure is increasing, one of the most important reason, because the government sector is not that efficient. If government sector works just like that same way efficiently where private sector is working, so definitely chances are there where even expenditure can be reduced. A recent study of the Planning Commission, it says that has estimated that transferring 1 rupee to the poor people. So we can transfer only 1 rupee, it is more than enough. But what we doing is government spends 3.65 rupees for food subsidy for the person. When we are doing the form of food subsidy means whatever the basic food they are purchasing, in that we are offering in a very lesser prices like PDS, public distribution system, these all way. So showing that cash transfers would lead to increase in the welfare. More than spending on a food subsidy, they say that cash transfer will be the best one. That too, 1 rupee is more than enough for the sake of the welfare. The other way is to change the scope of government by withdrawing from some of the areas. We have to withdraw some of the areas which we think already we operated before. Again and again operating the same areas, concentrating on same areas, it is not needed. This time we are concentrating on education, next year also we are going to concentrate on education, we are going to spend again more money. It is not needed. The thing what we can do is, if you have already operated that before, so we'll skip that area and we'll jump to the next areas. That can be the one of the best option. Cutting back government programs in vital areas like we can think about cutting off like agriculture, education, health, poverty alleviation. If we start doing this, if we started cutting down the education, agriculture sector and poverty alleviation and the health sector, we can think of cutting off these programs. But if we do that, it is going to affect the economy adversely. So because definitely so many areas we are thinking it's all basic areas where everybody is going to use. So in the mass population, we have too much of population, in that if you cut down the welfare activities, definitely people are going to struggle. So it is going to affect the economy adversely. So it is not possible. Government in many countries run huge deficit, forcing them to eventually put in the place self-imposed constraints. What is self-imposed constraint? That means self-unconsciously they are going to cut off the few of the expenditure. Why they are going to cut off the expenditure? Because they think that if we cross this limit, that is going to affect the country. So they have kept one of the margins. So this is a limitation. After this, we are not going to spend on these all areas. So these will have examined keeping in a view. So we must note that larger deficit do not always signify a more expansionary fiscal policy. So we think that the fiscal deficit, larger deficits, whatever we have, we're going to expansionary fiscal policy. But always the fiscal policy deficit what we are coming with, it's not going to expand the fiscal policy. It is not the same. The same fiscal measures can give rise to large or small deficits. It completely depends on the state of the economy. Whether the fiscal deficit, the deficit is large or small, it completely depends on the state of economy. The state of economy means whether the economy is facing the inflation, economy is facing the recession, economy is in the stage of boom, economy is in facing a complete stable. On the basis of how economy is, on the basis of that deficit will be decided. That's called as state of economy. So here we are going to talk about one of the example theory. Here just imagine if an economy experiences a recession. Just imagine in any economy we have a recession. If we have a recession, in that the GDP is going to reduce. If GDP is going to reduce, the tax revenue is also going to decrease. If the tax revenue is going to decrease, in that case firms and the households, whatever the taxes they are going to pay, that is also going to decrease. Why it is going to decrease? They are going to pay lower taxes, because when they are earning less, their income is already less. When their income is less, they're going to pay the lower taxes. Who is going to pay the lower taxes? Firms and the household. So in this way, whenever you have a recession, GDP is going to decrease, tax revenue is going to decrease, and the firms and the household, they're going to pay very lesser taxes, just because one of the reason, because they're going to earn less. So in this case, deficit, whenever we have a recession, tax revenue falls because firms and households pay lesser one. In this case, what we have understood is, whenever we have a deficit, the recession is going, in the recession, deficit is going to increase. We have just seen, whenever income is going to decrease, they're going to pay lesser taxes. Because of that, they're going to get the lesser receipts, expenditure will be more. That means in the deficit is going to increase in the recession. When it comes to boom, the deficit is going to decrease. So this is a situation. This means that the deficit increases in the recession and falls in the boom, even with no change in the fiscal policy. Just imagine, we are not changing any fiscal policy. The fiscal policy remained the same, but still in the deficit, the deficit is going to increase in the recession, because the GDP decreased, tax revenue got decreased, and firms and households are paying lesser taxes because of their lesser income. That means the receipts got decreased. The receipts is decreasing, that means definitely expenditure will be more. If receipts are less, expenditure is more, definitely that leads to deficit problem. Deficit will be more. On the other side, when you have a boom stage, GDP is going to increase, tax revenue is going to increase, firms and households, they're going to pay higher taxes because their income is also more. So in the boom stage, the deficit will be less, and the recession, the deficit will be more. Deficit means shortage of income. Even though you're not changing any fiscal policy, the fiscal policy means the policy which is made for the collection of receipts, the policy which makes collection very smooth functioning. How you're going to collect the tax, non-tax, these all makes a perfect smooth functioning of that through the fiscal policy. On the other way, if you're going to increase the direct taxes, the first thing, efficiently we have to increase the direct taxes. Public expenditure should be decreased. We have to concentrate more on disinvestment of public sector undertakings. We have to concentrate on one more area, that private sector investment. Private sector is more efficient and they have a large number of share when it comes to income. So we have to encourage private sector to increase more and more investment. The last one, we have to bring a new taxation method where every economy receipts should be increased. So this is the way how successfully we can reduce the deficit in any economy. So I hope you have understood the class. This is one of the 6-mark question. Please do concentrate on it. If you really liked my video, if you are getting all the concepts which I am discussing, and whatever the topics I am discussing, it is interrelated with one or the other topic. So if you want to understand this, you have to see all the videos from this chapter one by one. Only then you will get the connection between the topics. So if you are getting my classes, so please do subscribe and share. Thank you so much.